You want me to say that again? The waiter sneered, mimicking the man's deep accent with exaggerated lips. Sue, I would like a table for one. His mockery sliced through the clinking glasses and murmurs of the restaurant. A couple nearby chuckled awkwardly. The man stood still, shoulders square, eyes unreadable. Before anyone could react, the waiter slapped a menu onto the table so hard that cutlery rattled. Power hung heavy in the air, invisible but crushing. The man's voice came low and measured. I said table for one, please. Oh, I heard you, the waiter said, smirking. Just wanted to make sure everyone else did too. He gestured around as if inviting applause. None came. A nearby family turned away, pretending not to hear. The sound of sizzling steaks filled the uncomfortable silence. He sat down quietly, adjusting his jacket with slow precision. His movements carried a calm that unnerved the waiter. Are you visiting? The waiter asked, scanning him with a smirk. Or, you just got lost on your way to the cheaper part of town? The man didn't answer. He looked up at the ornate chandelier, its gold reflections dancing on his wristwatch. I'll have the sea bass, he said evenly. The waiter laughed through his nose. Of course you will. Fancy taste. He scribbled without writing a thing. Do you want it cooked the normal way or however you people eat it? Every table around fell silent again. Forks paused midair. The man's hand trembled for a second before he clasped it under the table. Cooked. Like anyone else, he said. Right, the waiter muttered, leaning closer. Just checking. Hard to tell sometimes. Moments later, he turned to the bar, imitating the man's accent again for the bartender's amusement. Cooked like anyone else, he said in a slow drawl. The bartender's smile died halfway. The manager's office door stayed closed upstairs, no rescue coming. The man waited, watching condensation slide down his untouched glass of water. Behind his calm, memories flickered, other rooms, other faces twisting in mockery. But he swallowed them down. He straightened the napkin on his lap, eyes fixed on the waiter now returning with smug confidence. Still want the sea bass? The waiter asked, tone dripping with false politeness. I ordered it, didn't I? Well, he said, crossing his arms, sometimes people change their minds once they see the prices. The man looked around, laughter at one table, whispers at another. Still, he didn't raise his voice. You think I can't afford to eat here? The waiter leaned in, breath heavy with arrogance. I think you're in the wrong place, that's all. A fork fell somewhere behind them. Someone whispered, Is he serious? The tension was unbearable now, vibrating through every breath. The man exhaled slowly, lifting his eyes to meet the waiter's, steady, piercing, defiant. Then maybe, he said, voice calm as stone. This place is about to find out how wrong you are. The waiter smirked again, tapping his pen on the notepad. Sure thing, boss man, he said with mock respect. Hope you brought your wallet. He turned to a young waitress passing by. Hey, Mia, guess what our guest wants? Sea bass. Big spender over here. His tone carried a poisonous grin. The waitress froze, glancing at the customer, then looked down, ashamed. The man said nothing. His silence was heavier than any insult. His eyes traced the tablecloth, the fine stitching, the spotless plates, everything that symbolized civility except the people serving it. When the food arrived, the waiter made a show of placing it down. Here we go, sir, he said, overemphasizing every syllable. Fresh from the ocean just like you probably are, huh? A couple of diners gasped. The sound of a wine bottle popping nearby couldn't cover the sting of his words. The man inhaled, steadying himself. Do you treat all your guests this way? He asked quietly. Only the ones who talk funny, the waiter said, flashing his teeth. Nothing personal, man. Just having fun. Fun, the man repeated softly, tasting the word like something sour. You think humiliation is fun? The waiter shrugged, spinning the pen in his fingers. Don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. Relax. The man's fork trembled against the plate. He forced a thin smile. A joke, he said, voice tightening. Tell me, how many jokes like that did you need to feel taller today? The waiter's grin faltered for the first time. Excuse me? The man leaned back slightly, eyes calm, tone unshaken. You sound like someone who only feels big when someone else is made small. The room went still. The nearby diners exchanged glances but stayed silent, afraid to intervene. The air buzzed with the awkwardness of truth. The waiter laughed too loudly, breaking the silence. "Man, you really rehearsed that, didn't you?" he said, forcing bravado. "What are you, some kind of motivational speaker?" The man didn't respond. His gaze drifted toward a framed photograph on the far wall, a smiling man shaking hands with the restaurant's owner. The lighting caught his reflection beside it, and for a fleeting second, the resemblance was uncanny. But no one noticed. The waiter wiped his hands on a towel. "You know what? I'll just go double-check your order," he said mockingly. "Wouldn't want to mess up the sea bass for a distinguished guest like you." He turned sharply, laughing under his breath as he walked away. At the counter, he mimicked the accent again, louder this time. The kitchen staff shifted uncomfortably. One muttered, "Man, stop," but he waved them off. "It's fine. He's used to it." Across the room, the man lifted his glass of water, his reflection shaking in it. He wasn't angry. Not yet. Beneath the restraint, something colder was forming. His posture remained regal, composed. But his eyes, those eyes held a quiet warning, a promise of reckoning. Before anyone could react, he set the glass down with a soft, deliberate clink that made everyone nearby look up. The waiter, halfway through another joke, felt the air change, subtle but unmistakable. For the first time that afternoon, he looked uncertain. For a moment, the restaurant's chatter faded beneath the hum of memory. The man's eyes softened, and suddenly he wasn't sitting in a fancy dining room anymore. He was a young boy again, standing in front of a cracked classroom wall somewhere far away. His teacher had laughed at the way he said 3, turning it into a performance for the other children. They'd all joined in. He had smiled through it then, just like now. The scene flickered, his mother's hand guiding him through years of insults, her voice whispering, "Don't fight back with anger, son. Let your silence shame them." Her words had been his armor, but today they felt heavier than steel. Back in the present, the waiter was leaning against the counter, still telling the story. "He said sea bass like it was poetry," he laughed. "Man thinks he's royalty or something." The staff's laughter was hollow. One of them, a bus boy, looked down, muttering, "He's just a customer, bro. Chill." The man's gaze moved across the room, at the walls decorated with photos of smiling faces, families, awards. He wondered how many of those smiles hid the same cruelty. He looked at the window, his reflection against the city skyline, and whispered under his breath, "You've earned your place. Don't let him take it." Moments later, the waiter returned with the same mocking grin. "All good," he said. "The chef said we'll make it extra special. Hope that works for you." The man looked up. "It'll be fine." "Oh, I'm sure it will," the waiter said, voice thick with sarcasm. "You look like you've been through worse." Something in those words pierced deeper than he expected. His chest tightened, and a memory surfaced, the day he'd arrived in this city. He'd been rejected from his first job because of his accent. He'd walked home in the rain, soaked to the bone, whispering to himself that one day he'd speak and they would listen. One day they'd see him, and now, he thought, they still don't. He touched his wrist where the old watch ticked, a gift from his mother before she passed. It had her words engraved on the back. "Speak with grace, but never bow." He closed his eyes for a moment, steadying his breath. When he opened them, his expression had changed. The hurt was still there, but it had settled into something sharper, control, power, the kind that doesn't need to raise its voice. The waiter dropped off the bill prematurely, snickering. "Just in case you forget to pay," he said, tapping the paper. "Happens sometimes." The man didn't even look at it. He folded the napkin neatly, every movement precise. "You're very confident for someone who doesn't know who's sitting in front of him," he said quietly. The waiter paused mid-smirk. "What's that supposed to mean?" The man met his gaze, calm and unflinching. "You'll find out soon enough." The room went still again. The laughter from the counter died instantly. Somewhere in the distance, the faint chime of the restaurant's front door echoed, and though no one knew it yet, everything in that room was about to change. The waiter hovered by the table, curiosity creeping into his smirk. "What's that supposed to mean, huh?" he said, voice cracking slightly. "Are you threatening me or something?" The man didn't look up. He slid his card across the table with quiet precision. "No," he said softly. "I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing." The waiter laughed too loudly, glancing around as if for an audience. "Oh, I get it. You're one of those guys, trying to act all mysterious. All right, let's see if this thing even works." He picked up the card, tilting it toward the light, pretending to inspect it. "You sure this is real? It doesn't look like the kind of plastic we usually see around here." The man's voice didn't change. "Run it," the waiter shrugged, walking toward the counter. "If you say so. Hope it doesn't bounce." He turned to a nearby coworker and whispered, "Watch this. I'll bet this dude's card gets declined." The whisper wasn't quiet enough. A couple dining at the next table shifted uncomfortably. The man's hand tightened around his glass, but his expression stayed neutral. The waiter reached the register and held the card between his fingers like a trophy. "Hey, boss," he called to the kitchen manager. "Can you come check this?" "Looks fake." The manager looked annoyed. "Just swipe it, Tom." Tom, the waiter, smirked. "Yeah, but if it's stolen, I'm the one who gets in trouble, right?" His voice was loud enough to make heads turn. The man stood now, slow and steady. Every movement deliberate, every breath controlled. "You think I stole it?" he asked quietly. Tom's grin widened. "I didn't say that. But you know, these cards aren't cheap. Just doing my job." The restaurant was silent again. The hum of the ceiling fan seemed deafening. The man's jaw tensed, a flicker of rage quickly contained. "You're not doing your job," he said, walking closer. "You're playing with fire!" Tom laughed, though his confidence wavered. "What are you, a lawyer or something?" The man leaned slightly forward. "Something like that." A murmur spread through the restaurant. The young waitress, Mia, stepped forward hesitantly. "Tom, maybe just—" He cut her off with a snap of his fingers. "I got this, Mia, don't worry. People like him love the attention." The man's gaze darkened. "People like me?" Tom smirked again, doubling down. "Yeah, loud accents, loud stories, big attitudes. Always trying to prove something." The words echoed through the air, venomous and heavy. The man's breathing slowed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You've already proven something," he said. Tom blinked. "Yeah? What's that?" "That class," the man said, "has nothing to do with money." Before Tom could reply, the restaurant door chimed, a sharp, metallic sound that sliced through the tension. Every head turned. Footsteps echoed. The manager froze mid-sentence. A deep voice from the doorway said calmly, "Everything all right here?" Tom's smirk faltered. The color drained from his face. Because standing in the doorway, in a tailored suit and watch worth more than the restaurant's weekly sales, was the man's boss, the owner himself. And the way he looked at Tom told everyone that something irreversible had just begun. The restaurant froze. Conversation stopped mid-word, forks hovered in the air. The owner's sharp eyes swept the room, landing on the man still standing by the counter. Then on Tom, who looked suddenly small beneath his apron. "Mind explaining what's going on here?" the owner asked, his tone calm but cutting. Tom straightened up, forcing a smile. "Sir, I was just checking this gentleman's card. You know, standard procedure." "Standard procedure?" the owner repeated. "Since when do we publicly question our guests like criminals?" Tom's mouth opened, no words coming out. The man said nothing, just folded his arms and watched. I just thought something looked off," Tom stammered. "Didn't want to get scammed or—" "Scammed?" The owner stepped forward, voice now sharp as glass. "Do you have any idea who this man is?" Tom blinked, confused. "A customer?" The owner's jaw tightened. "He's not just a customer." He turned toward the man, his expression shifting to respect. "I'm so sorry you had to experience this, sir." The word "sir" hung heavy in the air. Gasps rippled through the room. Tom looked from one to the other, bewildered. "Wait, you know him?" The man's eyes met his. "You should have asked that before you laughed." The owner gestured toward the back office. "He's my business partner, the investor who owns half of this place. The one who pays your salary." Tom's face was drained of color. What? The owner's tone grew colder. You mocked his accent, humiliated him in front of customers. Do you think this is a joke? Tom stammered. I didn't mean it like that. I was just what? The owner's voice rose. Just reminding him he's beneath you? Just proving you can't stand seeing a successful man with darker skin than yours? The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the kitchen staff peered through the serving hatch, stunned. Tom's hands trembled as he set the credit card down like it might burn him. The man stepped closer, his presence calm, yet commanding. You didn't just mock me, he said quietly. You mocked every person who's ever had to smile through this kind of treatment. Tom's eyes watered, his voice barely a whisper. I was joking. No, the man said, his tone like stone. You were hiding behind a joke. The owner turned toward the diners, his voice firm. Everyone in this room just saw what prejudice looks like. It's ugly. It's small. And it doesn't belong here. Then he faced Tom again. You're done. Take off the apron. Tom's knees buckled slightly. Please, sir, But the owner cut him off with a single raised hand. Apologize to him. Right now. Tom turned slowly toward the man, face flushed, eyes glassy. I'm sorry, he muttered. Louder, the owner demanded. Tom swallowed hard. I'm sorry for what I said, for how I acted. The man studied him for a long, silent moment. Then he said softly, You're not sorry for me. You're sorry because you got caught. But one day, maybe you'll learn the difference. Tom's eyes fell to the floor. The owner nodded once, final. Get out. As the door swung shut behind him, the room exhaled, the kind of silence that comes only after a storm. Tom's figure disappeared beyond the door, leaving behind a hush that felt like a wound. The owner let the silence linger, heavy, punishing. The man stood still, his breath calm but deep, eyes distant. The restaurant seemed smaller now, its chandeliers dimmer, its chatter gone. The owner turned to the man. You didn't deserve that. Not here, not anywhere. The man gave a slow nod. It's not the first time. Won't be the last. His voice was steady, almost tired. The owner sighed. That doesn't make it right. He looked toward the stunned diners. You all saw what happened. This place was built to welcome everyone. That man's actions? They'll never represent who we are. One table clapped softly. Another joined. Soon, a quiet ripple of applause filled the space, hesitant at first, then full. The man didn't smile. His eyes were fixed on the empty doorway where Tom had stood. Justice isn't applause, he said quietly. It's changed. The owner's gaze hardened, not at the man, but at himself. Then we'll make it change. Moments later, he called the staff together. The waiters gathered in a small semicircle, uncertain, embarrassed, listening. This restaurant, the owner said, isn't just about food. It's about respect. If you can't serve that, you can't serve here. The young waitress, Mia, spoke up softly. Sir, can I say something? He nodded. I wanted to stop him, she said, voice trembling. But I was scared. I didn't want to lose my job. The man turned toward her, eyes gentle. You don't need to apologize for being afraid, he said. You just need to remember this feeling, and so next time you'll speak. Her eyes glistened. She nodded, whispering, I will. The owner placed a hand on the man's shoulder. If you'd let me, he said, I'd like to make this right. Partner to partner, the man exhaled slowly. Make it right for them, he said, gesturing toward the staff. Give them a voice. Teach them to see. Consider it done, the owner said. The restaurant's energy shifted. The tension cracked, replaced by something new, humility. The air felt lighter, though the weight of what happened still lingered. The man walked back to his table, picked up his untouched plate of sea bass, and took a slow bite. It tasted different now, not bitter, not sweet. Just real. Moments later, he stood to leave. The owner followed him to the door. Will you come back? He asked. The man paused, looking over the now silent dining room. That depends on what this place becomes, the owner nodded. I'll make sure it's worth coming back to. Outside, the city glowed under a dim sunset. The man adjusted his jacket and stepped into the fading light. A soft wind carried the faint echo of the owner's words. Everyone's welcome. He stopped, turned slightly, and said, almost to himself, "Respect costs nothing, but it can reveal everything." And with that he walked away, calm, dignified, leaving behind a silence that spoke louder than any applause. The following afternoon, sunlight poured through the restaurant's tall windows, catching on the freshly polished silverware. A new sign hung above the door. "Everyone's welcome." The words gleamed in gold, but it wasn't the shine that mattered. It was the meaning carved beneath it. The man returned quietly, dressed in the same calm authority he wore yesterday. No cameras, no entourage, just a man walking into the same space that once humiliated him. The hostess saw him first and straightened immediately. "Welcome back, sir," she said softly. "Your table is ready." He nodded, eyes scanning the room. The staff moved differently now, slower, kinder, aware. The whisper of shame still lingered, but beneath it was something new. Growth. The owner approached with 2 cups of coffee. "Didn't think I'd see you so soon," he said, half smiling. "I wanted to see if words meant anything," the man replied. "They will," the owner promised. "We started new training this morning. Not just about customer service, about people. I told them your story." They listened. The man took the coffee, his reflection mirrored in the dark surface. "Good," he said quietly. "Stories change more than rules ever will." At the corner table, Mia was setting down water glasses. When she looked up, her eyes met his. No fear this time, only gratitude. She approached cautiously. "I'm glad you came back," she said. He smiled faintly. "So am I." "Yesterday," she continued, voice low, "when you said, 'Remember this feeling,' I did. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking, if I don't speak up, I will become part of it." He nodded. "Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's just refusing to stay silent." The owner joined them, glancing around. "I won't pretend one apology fixes what happened. But we're changing the way we hire, the way we train. Every staff member will take part in your foundation's program, the one you started for workplace equality." The man's eyes lifted, surprised. "You read about it?" The owner smiled. "You fund half of this city's outreach programs and you thought I wouldn't?" For the first time since yesterday, the man laughed, a deep, warm sound that seemed to lift the weight from the room. The door chimed again. A couple entered, a young black man and his girlfriend. They hesitated at the entrance, scanning the elegant decor, uncertain if they belonged. Mia stepped forward instantly. "Welcome," she said, her tone genuine, steady. "Your table's waiting." The man watched the moment unfold. A small act, simple, but powerful. The couple smiled and followed her inside. "That's it," he said softly. "That's how it starts," the owner nodded. "You gave this place a mirror. We didn't like what we saw. But we're learning to see better." The man set his empty cup down, rose from his chair, and extended his hand. "Then my work here is done." The owner shook it firmly. "Not done," he said. "Just begun." As the man stepped outside, sunlight brushed across his face. Behind him, laughter filled the restaurant again. Lighter this time, freer. He looked up at the sign once more, the words glinting against the blue sky. "Respect costs nothing," he murmured. "But it can change everything." He walked on, leaving behind not just a restaurant, but a reminder. Sometimes the loudest revolution begins with quiet dignity. Days passed. Word of the incident spread, not through tabloids or social media scandals, but through whispers, through people retelling what they saw. Customers came back not for gossip, but to see the change for themselves. Something had shifted in the air of that restaurant. The energy, the eyes, the way voices softened when taking orders. The man didn't return for a week. But when he finally did, it wasn't as a customer. It was as a teacher. He entered quietly one morning before opening hours. The staff were gathered in a semicircle, waiting. The owner stood beside him, arms crossed with respect. "Everyone," he began, "this man isn't here for business today. He's here for the truth." The man looked around the room. The same walls that once echoed with laughter at his expense. "You all saw what happened," he said calmly. Some of you stayed silent, some looked away. But what matters now isn't what you did then. It's what you do next. No one spoke. The weight of his words settled deep. He continued pacing slowly, voice steady. Disrespect doesn't always come from hate. Sometimes it comes from ignorance, from people who never stop to ask what their words can do. But the damage feels the same. And if you work with people, serve people, you have power. What you say can lift or destroy. He paused, meeting their eyes one by one. You choose which, a murmur spread. Someone in the back whispered, "He's right," the owner nodded. From now on, every new employee will sit through this talk. No exceptions. The man turned toward the young waitress, Mia. Would you tell them what you felt that day? She hesitated, then stepped forward. I felt scared, she said softly. But I also felt guilty. I saw something wrong, and I said nothing. That silence was worse than his words. The man's eyes softened. And yet here you are, and speaking now. That's how change begins. A few others nodded, visibly moved. The dishwasher, a quiet older man, raised his hand. Sir, he said gently, how do you forgive someone who treats you like that? The man thought for a long moment before answering. You don't forgive them. You forgive yourself, so they don't own your peace. The room fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was a reflection. Growth. He smiled faintly. You can't control who walks through that door, he said. But you can control how they walk out. The owner placed a framed plaque on the wall beside the new sign. It read, Dignity Served Daily. Everyone clapped, not loudly, but sincerely. As he turned to leave, Mia called out, Will you come again, sir? He smiled. If I do, I won't be testing you. I'll be proud of you. He stepped outside, the morning light spilling over the sidewalk. Behind him, the staff returned to work, plates clattering. Laughter soft but real. The camera would linger on his silhouette for a moment longer, the city humming awake around him. Then his voice, calm, powerful, closed the story. In a world obsessed with status, the real power is in how we treat those who have none. Respect. It costs nothing, yet it builds everything. Fade to black. The screen fades in from black. Weeks have passed. The restaurant, once a symbol of arrogance and quiet cruelty, now buzzes with warmth. Laughter hums beneath soft music. Conversations ripple with ease, and every table, every face, reflects something different. Belonging. Outside, the man stands across the street for a moment, watching. The gold sign, Everyone's Welcome, glints in the afternoon light. He takes a slow breath before crossing. Inside, Mia greets him first. He's here, she calls toward the back, her voice filled with genuine joy this time. The staff turn, smiling. Even the kitchen staff step out briefly to nod in acknowledgement. The owner emerges, wiping his hands on a towel. You picked a good day to come back, he says, walking over. I wasn't sure I would, the man admits. But I wanted to see if the soul of this place really changed. It did, the owner says. Not because we had to, but because we wanted to. He gestures around. We started a mentorship program. Hired 2 kids through your foundation. We've been donating part of every week's profits to community meals. Tom's words, what he did. It lit a fire we didn't know we needed. The man looks around quietly. 2 young men in chef jackets, both with accents, both new, laugh as they plate dishes. A handwritten chalkboard near the counter reads, Today's recipe, respect, patience, and a little spice. A smile touches his lips. Now that, he says, is a flavor worth serving. Mia approaches with a new dish. The chef wanted you to try this, she says, placing the plate down. He said it's inspired by your story. Sea base with African spices. The man chuckles softly. The same sea base, huh? Same dish, she grins. Different meaning. He takes a bite, closes his eyes. The flavor hits, bold, balanced, alive. Perfect, he says. You can taste the respect in it. The staff laugh, tension melting away. The owner leans forward. You know, he says, we thought about naming the dish after you. He waves it off with a small smile. Don't. Why not? Because this isn't about me, he says. It's about what people learned when they realized who they were becoming. The owner nods slowly. Then we'll name it something else. He glances at the menu board. What about the lesson? Everyone smiles. It feels right. Moments later, the door opens. A diverse crowd filters in. Businessmen, students, families. They fill the space without friction, without glances of judgment. Just people sharing food. The man stands ready to leave again. Mia calls after him. Will we ever see you again? He looks back, eyes kind. You already do. In every person you treat them right. He walks toward the door as the camera follows. The sunlight catching the reflection of the restaurant's motto, Dignity Served Daily. Outside, the world is loud again. Car horns, footsteps, life moving fast. But he walks calmly through it, his voice returning one last time in quiet narration. Change doesn't come from power. It comes from choice. The choice to see humanity before status. Respect before judgment. He pauses at the edge of the street, turns once more toward the restaurant, and says softly, almost a whisper, because real class isn't served on a plate. It's shown in how you serve others. He steps into the crowd. The frame lingers on the golden sign, glinting in the sunlight.